אהלן. שומע? רואה? אהלן.
רואה.
בסדר, מה המצב?
רגע.
תשמע, אני רוצה לנסות לעשות שיתוף, לראות אם עובד הקליפ, בסדר?
כן.
תגיד לי אם אתה מצליח גם לשמוע, לא רק לראות. ריץ קצרים. עבד?
ראיתי, אבל לא שמעתי. אבל זה גם לא כל כך רץ.
לא היה אודיו, אתה אומר.
אז עשית share computer sound, או איך שהם רוצים שם?
כן, בוא, אתה יודע מה? בוא אני אעשה אותך co-host.
אוקיי.
רק למקרה שמהמחשב שלי איכשהו זה לא יעבוד. כי היו לי לפעמים כל מיני גליצים כאן. בוא אני אנסה עוד פעם.
לא. קצת, אבל איכשהו נורא בשקט. ממש בקושי שמעתי.
רגע, שנייה, לא שמעתי. מה אתה אומר?
שאני חושב ששמעתי, אבל מאוד מאוד בשקט.
בוא, תנסה אז אתה רגע, אני אשלח עליך את הקישור. רגע, ננסה בצ'אט. הנה, שלחתי לך את הקישור. בוא תנסה.
מה העניינים חברים?
אהלן, מה המצב?
מצוין, שומעים אותי טוב?
אותך שומעים נהדר.
אז הלילה זה יהיה אני ואוריה ביחד, כאחד, זה סתם. אכלתי על טוריה לארוחת ערב.
קום בעיה שם תעשו. אבל אני טועה, אני מנסה עכשיו, יחד עם ירדן, אגב, תכירו.
מרחבה ירדן, סמך. אני סמך, אוריה עוד מעטבה, עוד חצי דקה הוא פה.
אנחנו מנסים עכשיו להפעיל בסקרין שיירינג את הקליפ הראשון, אני חושב שאצלי במחשב האודיו חלש. ירדן, אתה יכול לשים את זה לזמן קצר?
כן, בוא נראה.
כן, נגן את זה שנייה, אחי, בוא נבדוק.
אהלן. אתה יכול לעשות שייר, נכון? ירדן. בוא
נראה, תכף אני אגיד לך.
עכשיו גם הוא עושה את זה מהיוטיוב, אמרתי לו, קובץ, זה לא יעזור. אני יודע.
אבי, אחמד טיבי, לא סתם אנחנו תמיד
בוחרים.
אצלך זה עובד היטב.
נערתם לקלפי ושוב קיבלתם זיבי. להאמין בדו-קיום זה...
אז אני אשתף, אין דבר.
100%. על הכיף.
אהלן אוריה, נעים מאוד.
היי חבר'ה, כיף לראות אתכם, ירדן, אוריאל, כיף.
אהלן. אז עכשיו אתה יכול לעשות סטופ שיירינג, אני אעשה, אתה יודע, הצגה קטנה של מה אנחנו עכשיו, יש לנו עוד דקה, נראה כמה אנשים יצטרפו אלינו. אבל שאני מצטרף.
הסטודנטים שלך, זה השיעור שלך עכשיו?
אצלי?
כן.
לא, אני לימדתי אתמול, אני ביקשתי מכל הסטודנטים אצלי להצטרף, כמו שאצלך, אני לא יכול לחייב אותם להגיע, נראה כמה יבוא. יכול להיות שיהיה מאוד מאוד אינטימי, אמרתי לך אוריה.
אני בטעות הפצתי את זה בכל הרשתות, אז אולי הגיעו אנשים אצלי.
כן, גם אנחנו...
כמה שיותר יותר טוב, נכון? אני רק צריך לוודא. כן, מה שאני אעשה, אני אשלח את הקישור לכולם, אבל ירדן, אתה תריץ להם. אלה שמאיזושהי סיבה לא הצליחו לראות את הקליפ, אז יוכלו ללכת את הקישור. נשמע טוב, אוריה?
תגיד שוב, סליחה?
אני אומר, אנחנו נציע להם לראות את זה דרך השיתוף מסך של ירדן, לא יעבוד, נשלח להם את הקישור, או נשלח להם במקביל, מי שלא מסתדר שיראה את זה דרך הקישור.
בסדר גמור. טוב, אז אנחנו עוצרים רגע את הוידאו. תסמנו לנו מתי לחבור, בסדר?
אין בעיה.
בסדר, אתם יכולים לצאת, בוא ניקח עוד איזה 2-3 דקות, ניתן לאנשים להגיע.
כן.
וברגע שזה קורה אני אסמן לכם. אוי שאני. טוב, יכול להיות שזה באמת יהיה מאוד אינטימי.
כן.
בסדר?
נראה.
ביקשתי מהחבר'ה שם של הלל שיפיצו, נראה אם גם עומר יצטרף או לא.
למה לא עשית את זה בשיעור עצמו? על השיעור שלך?
כי זה לא מסתדר עם השעות. אני מפליג איתם עד 5, הייתי סוחב אותם עד חצות. שעון ישראל.
כן.
Hi, Mary's here. Hi, Mary. Hello, how are you?
Good to see you.
Likewise. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, and looking forward to it.
We'll give a couple of, I don't know, a minute or two. We'll see if we can make it somewhat less intimate. Although intimate is good. I'm up for that. And we'll take it from there. By the way, let me introduce you, Yarden and Mary. Yarden is a friend of mine in Israeli too, teaching at the psychology department.
Good.
Hi. Nice meeting you, Mary.
And Mary comes from government. I wonder if there are any people that I should be admitting. I think that I should have seen that in a list.
Yeah, maybe some are asking you to join or something.
I haven't seen it. Now, all I see is the 7 participants that we are at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you, Mary?
Okay. Worried about the state of the world as everybody else is.
Mm.
We'll give you more reason to be concerned, I think, during this talk.
Right.
As if there's not enough.
I'm hoping this is about resolving the state of the world.
What they're trying to do for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if Peter told you, we just returned from Chicago.
No, he didn't say that.
Yeah, it was the last couple of weeks. I've been in Venice for about 10 days. A PhD academy, grad students coming from various places, mainly Europe, not just Europe. So that was cool. And then for a week for the MPSA in Chicago.
Oh, right. And I keep forgetting that that's about now.
That's going on.
How was that?
So Shani, my wife, and the kids, Shani is here. And Shani and the kids joined me. And we actually had a road trip.
Oh, great. Oh, so glad to meet you, Shani.
We had a road trip from Chicago to Ithaca. Yesterday, Shani, how many hours was it yesterday? The second part, 6 hours, whatever.
It's about 12, right?
Altogether, yeah.
Yeah.
So we stayed one night near Cleveland.
Uh-huh.
And then yesterday, the whole way through.
Was the weather okay, or was it?
Yesterday was glorious. It was
wonderful.
Just wonderful. I mean, before that, it was chilly, especially in Chicago. But yesterday, we spent a couple of hours near Erie Lake.
Right.
That was glorious. The wonderful part. Okay. I think this is about it for the group at the moment.
Yeah, I think you better start.
Yeah. I think that we should start. Uriya, Sameh, we'll await you. Hello. So yes, we will be having a very intimate gathering, I think, which will allow us to, take our leisure. spending time with you, hearing your presentation at the beginning, then moving on to Q&A. But before we'll get into that, let me just introduce myself. Uriya, I'm a visiting professor at the government department here at Cornell University. I will be joined by Yarden, who is teaching at the psychology department. And I'm delighted, truly delighted, to have Uriya and Sameh joining us. I've been chasing Uriya for, I don't know, how many months now? Many months. Basically, since I've watched the first clip that you issued, it was a bit less than a year ago, right?
May 20th, 2021.
Yeah. And what a timing it was. Some of you, I imagine, remember the escalation, the violent escalations that we have witnessed about a year ago in Israel, Palestine. And although I know that the clip wasn't intended, of course, to be released at such a moment, it was. And I think the conjunction between this wonderful work of art and politics and what was going on the ground was unnerving almost to a certain extent. I just want to say that I was trying today to understand why I was so taken by this clip. And I was talking to Yarden before, and what came to my mind was that, you know, last May, after about a year and a half being in Ithaca, there was something so very refreshing about this clip. Because one of the things that had frustrated me for years, actually, being in the States, was that I haven't seen this sort of frank dialogue going on between rivals within American society, within American politics. And what I witnessed in your remarkable clip, Sameh and Uriya, was exactly that sort of stuff. It was frank and it was blunt, but you were doing it together. And although in the clip that we will now be watching, there isn't a direct dialogue, so to speak, right? Because it's basically two monologues being uttered one towards the other. I think it was one of the best invitations to dialogues that I've ever seen. And of course, you are invited basically as part of our Identity Dialogue series here. And I couldn't think of a better, more fitting people to listen to in the context of identity dialogue. So, Sameh, Uriya, would you like me to just send the link and Yarden to share the screen of the first clip? Okay. So without further ado, Yarden, you would have the link shared through the screen. I will put it on chat in case someone can't hear or see that.
בוא נדבר דוגרי, לא מבין באיזה קטע אתם הערבים כועסים. רוצים שוויון זכויות ואצלנו במדינה לחיות, אבל צבא אתם לא עושים. חנין זועבי, אחמד טיבי, לא סתם אנחנו תמיד בוחרים את ביבי. נערתם לקלפי ושוב קיבלתם זיבי. להאמין בדו-קיום זה סתם להיות נאיבי. אז וואלה כן, כשאני שומע את המבטא אני תמיד בוחן. רק אל תגיד לי גזענות, תפסיק להתמסכן. אתה מזדהה כפלסטיני, אז איך תהיה שכן? שמע, זה דפוק. איפה שיש ערבים, יש פיגועים. ואתם עוד צפים להיכנס למועדונים? אולי תפסיקו להטריד לנו את הנשים? יעני, אתם עוד תקועים בעבר. רצח על כבוד המשפחה, נו בחייאת, מה נסגר? גרים בחמולות, יורים בחתונות, נוהגים כמו נבלות, מתעללים בחיות, גונבים מכוניות, דופקים לנשים שלכם מכות, ואז תמיד רק תלונות. מתי תתחילו למלא חובות? זה מרגיש די אבוד. אפילו בדואי לובש מדים נראה לי חשוד. נו? איך נדבר על איחוד? על כל רופא ורוקח יש ערבי שהיה מעדיף לחיות לחוד. אז מה, לחכות שאיזה מחמוד ייקח סכין ויצעק יטבח אל יהוד? אין ארוחות חינם. תלמדו לדבר עברית קינה, נתחיל משם. תשלמו ארנונה ותבנו חוקי כמו כולם. תשחררו כבר את הקוראן ותיפתחו לעולם. אני חיובי. אני לא גזען, הגנן שלי ערבי. אני לא גזען, אני קונה בשר בחינאוי וגם נרגילות ביפו אצל איזה ערבי. פשוט איבדתי תקווה, קשה לראות את היום שנוכל לחיות בשלווה. כנראה כהנא צדק שצעק הפרדה, אולי באמת עדיף לכם בעזה ובגדה. אני לא גזען, אני נשבע, אבל יש בינינו תאום תרבותי ויש גם סיבה. יהדות זה תיקון עולם, חיים ואהבת חינם, ואתם מחנכים ילדים לשנאה בשם האסלאם, הנה על העולם. ורק אכפת לכם מאללה ונקבה והג'יהאד והכבוד ששולט ביצר, מנהיגים שמטיפים להילחם בכל היתר, ציבור עיוור שלא חושב ורק הולך כמו עדר. תתלוננו על הכל, תבכו כמה שרע, תאשימו את כולם במקום להביט במראה. תנו לנו עוד כמה סיבות לפחד ולא לנסות, להתקרב ויחד לחיות, נראה שאין מה לעשות. סתם כפויה טובה, למה שלא תעשו שירות לאומי, עזוב צבא? איך אתם מעיזים בכלל לקחת תקציבים? אם לא תשרתו את המדינה מבחינתי אתם אויבים, יא ערבים. אני לא גזען, פשוט תופס מרחק, זה הכל. צחי התחתן עם לוסי, זה גדול. אלק לא שייך לשמאל, כוכב של פאודה והערבייה, סתם פרסום זול. הוכחתם שאפשר גם אחרת, הרי הגעתם כבר לכנסת וגם לנבחרת, אבל גם שם אתם לא באמת רוצים להתחלק. סוס טרויאני, סכין בגב, זרע המלך. יאללה, ערבב תתיח, יא אחמד, בזה תמיד היית טוב. רק אל תעשה לי עבודה ערבית ואל תעבוד חפיף. אם אתה לא מרוצה תמיד יש תחליף. במקומכם להביא כמה סודנים, כיף. אני לא גזען, מבין שיש עוד צד לסיפור, אני לא חי בסרט. לא גזען, אנחנו חולקים את המדינה, אבל השנאה לא נגמרת. הלוואי שהמציאות הייתה אחרת. נשבע לך שאני לא גזען.
בוא נדבר דוגרי, אתם היהודים שכחתם מה זה להיות מיעוט. אל תמכור היתוך, אבל עכשיו נשאר הכור אטומי, אפרטהייד וגזענות. ודי עם החרטה התרבותית, חצי מהלקסיקון שלכם מילים בערבית. סבבה, דחקה, יאללה, בעסה, אחלה דוואווין, רסמי סחבק ערבית, אסלי בחיים אתה לא תבין. خلص أنا فلسطيني وهذا الموجود خليك ساكت. لو مروا 2000 سنة أنا هون ثابت. من لغتي خايف طز فيك يا جاهل زمنك فائت. أنا ما ببرر عمليات أني نجد اللي يموت، بس 70 سنة احتلال أكيد تيه يتنجدوت. כשאתם פותחים מנגל חוגגים עצמאות, הנכבה בשביל סבתא שלי זה המציאות, יא שרמוט. אומרים ערבי טוב זה ערבי מת, ואז עוד מתלוננים שלא משרת. הממשלה הזו עושה אותי אזרח סוג ב'. قانون القومية على السلطة بيزيد. مجان دافيد بيمثلنيش ولا حتى النشيد. تحط لي ضوء بالحارة والله إنه يوم عيد. الدولة مش شايفاني إنسان شايفاني شهيد. أنت دبر بال شוויון בנטל כשאין לנו שום שוויון. שב תשתוק תקשיב זה דבר ראשון. איך אני אקים עסק אם אני לא נכנס למועדון? גם מזרחים אוכלים את החרא הזה בגלל דמיון, לא? זה לא נורמלי. ב-48 גירשתם את המשפחה שלי. האוכל עוד היה חם כשפרצתם לבתים. כובשים ומכחישים, לשמוע את האמת זה לא נעים. بتعرف ايش عربي وبتعرف ايش جارك. بدكاش اسكن جنبك وانا بنيت لك دارك. אתה לא יודע איך הלב דופק כל ביקור בנתב"ג, ובחיס חלי VIP כל ג'יה חרס, אין לך מושג. וכל מה שאתם אומרים לנו שטויות. יש לכם 22 מדינות ערביות. אתה נוצרי, אתה לא נראה, יאללה נמאס לי. אני סامح من الرملة, انسى اصلي. אני לא גזען, אני רדבן. אני משתaq לעילתי, מש شايفها من زمان. עלק מחנכים לשנאה בשם האסלאם. כבר 20 שנה אתם מבצעים בעזה רצח עם. כמה דם שפכתם, ורק אכפת לכם מכסף וכוח והכיבוש ולשלוט כעם נבחר. עברתם את השואה אז אתם חושבים שהכל מותר. הרסתם את יפו ועכו, מה יהיה מחר? على ايش بتعيط ولا مش انت هالجروك. كنت مكرم عنا باوروبا قتلوك. بعدين تعطيتني باسبورت شوف تعمليش معروف. حتى لو بيتي مكسوف فك الظروف مش رح امشي مكفوف بس. אני עומד זקוף, הלא מהערבים שאתם עושים להם אילוף. יש לי חלומות ושאיפות, אני רוצה לעוף. וואלק סמע, אני לא שקוף, תזכור טוב את הפרצוף. אתה חייב להודות שאתם עם של גזענים, אפילו מדינת תל אביב וכל שאר השמאלנים, אבל לפחות הם מנסים לא לראות אותנו כשונים. أنا مش عنصري بس زهقت. فكرت إني بكابوس ولما فقت فهمت. حياتي تسوى الشكل بدي أعيش وبمنعوني الحياة الحلوة اللي عليها حلمت. אתה דואג לעצמך אבל פוגע בי. אתה עוד תלמד לקבל אותי, אני ערבי. אם רק נפתח את הלב ואת העיניים יא صاحبي, נראה שיש אותו אל לכומר אימאם ורבי. أنا مش عنصري. دي ابني بكرة يفتخر فيه ويعرف إني عملت المستحيل. לא גזען, לשנינו נרץ אחרת, וכאן השינוי מתחיל.
This is the clip, and it ends with this is where the change starts. So, without any further ado, Uriya, Sameh, the floor is yours. Tell us where this is coming from and how to make a change.
Thank you, Uriya. Thank you for having us. We just want to start by saying that we are used to the Zoom meetings, Zoom educational meetings, and we know that some of the students can't join, but are going to watch the recording later. So we're pretty much used to speaking to a recording, but that's fine. The story goes on. So my name is Uriya Rosenman. I'm 32 years old. I'm an educator and creator from Israel.
I'm Sameh Zakout. I'm an actor, singer, 38 years old, born and raised in Ramle, and nowadays live in Yafa, Tel Aviv. Me and Uriya created together DUGRI. DUGRI, it's a social venture that is bringing Palestinians and Israelis together. We focus on three things: content, education, and community. That eventually we want to bring as much as we can, the moderate voice that nobody's really saying out there, and bringing it to the youth of the Palestinians and Israelis here and all around the world. What else about DUGRI?
Yeah, maybe like we want to start by saying that this talk that we're going to do is divided to three basic parts. The first one would be to share our story. The second one would be to connect our story to what's going on in Israel and Palestine between Jews and Arabs. And eventually we want to open it up to Q&A, for whoever's here. And yeah, that's our talk. Anything else?
The happiest part is questions. So don't be shy to ask any questions you have. Speak DUGRI and we will answer DUGRI. Fadal Abu Boaz.
So we have a short time. I want to start by sharing my story. I'm an Israeli that grew up in a very Zionist home. My grandfather, he was a company commander in the paratroopers, and he put the flag up on the Western Wall during the 6-day war. So I grew up with the strongest connections to my country and to the notion of defending it and the notion of the righteousness of the Jewish people in their homeland. And the whole narrative that I grew up on were like that. And I like to share that until the age of 24, I was a mainstream douchebag, in the sense that I aspired to become successful according to society's definitions of success. I went through the whole Israeli pathway, I aspired to be a good student in school. I was a basketball player, and then I joined the army, and I was a combat soldier and officer, because that's what a capable macho man does when he's 18 in Israel. And after that, I flew to a very common post-army trip abroad in South America and went on to study engineering. And at that point of my life, when I was 24, something happened to me, and I discovered spirituality. I started reading books about human potential and consciousness, and I started, basically I abandoned my mainstream way of life and started questioning the narratives that I grew up on. 4 years into that journey, into that process, I stumbled upon a video clip by an American artist American rapper called Joyner Lucas. The song was called I'm Not Racist, and it demonstrates the racism and tensions and hatred between blacks and whites in the US. It was such an emotional, such an artistic way to convey a message, like an emotional, slap in the face. And I was really inspired by that video. The second time I watched it, I already decided, wow, what a crazy thing to do if I would do an Israeli version of it. So, just out of my own spiritual process, I decided to take a challenge upon myself. But there are so many dichotomies in the country. So what would I choose? Right, left wing, Sephardic, Ashkenazic Jews, secular religious. Eventually, the most prominent dichotomy that was interesting for me was the Jewish-Arab one. Since I was a kid, I was never able to fully understand why they hate us so much. Why are they killing us? Probably, I thought to myself, the simplistic way of looking at it was probably they're different. They're more primitive. They have different culture. They're just, they have a murderous attitude. But then once I decided to grow and understand and my consciousness grew, I understood that life is more complicated than that. And that's when I decided to go on a journey. I started writing down lyrics for a Jewish side and an Arab side, but soon discovered that I don't know much about both extremes. So I started sending messages to people and meeting Jews and Arabs across the country, mostly Arabs, by the way, to understand their opinion and their extreme, which I wasn't familiar with. I asked all the questions, very authentically, and I listened to everybody, with all my heart. I asked about murder for family honor. I asked about shooting rifles at weddings. I asked about not being fully committed to the country in the sense of not serving in the IDF. And I really wanted to get their perspective. And I filled papers of their opinions and their feelings and what they had to say. And eventually, to make the story shorter, in a 2-year process, during which my older brother died of pancreatic cancer, which completely affected me and the way I prioritize the things that I do in my life. In those 2 years, I prepared a song out of those interviews. I prepared a rap song that was fully based on what I experienced and how I understand creatively the extremes that exist. And I had a ready song. I came to a musical producer, I played it to him, and I told him, listen, that's what I did. Who should I give it to? What famous rapper should I give this project to? And he told me, if you are not looking for money and you don't want to be a rapper, just do it yourself. It's the most authentic. Do you want to go get in and record? So the next day I already recorded the song, and I had a ready song all in Hebrew, in my voice, one Jewish side, one Arab side. And I understood 2 main things. One is that I sound shit and that I need to find an Arab partner in order for the project to be authentic. But the second thing I realized is that this project has a potential to reach the hearts of many and to serve as a mirror to societies. So if I'm passionate about this, I should go on with it. And that's when I sent a message to a friend that would please connect me to any Arab singer, rapper, or performer that he knows that would be willing to speak with me. And eventually, after a couple of messages, I reached out to this Sameh dude, and we decided to meet at the Manshia bar in Jaffa, which he managed that day.
And I'm the troublemaker. Again, marhaba. My name is Sameh Nasser Abdullah bin Muhammad bin Rabi' Zakout. You can only call me SAZ or Sameh. Long story short, Uriya's grandfather was the Israeli soldier who put the Israeli flag on the wall, on the Western Wall. But my grandfather, Abu Nijm Abdullah Zakout, in 48, was deported, him and my family, to Gaza. And most of my family nowadays live in Gaza and all around the world. So, you know, coming from this background and growing up in an open, really open-minded home, getting education, because my grandfather was a communist. So like this communist, open, liberal education that I had. Growing up in Ramle, you know, Ramle, it's maybe nobody knows, not everybody knows about Ramle, but Ramle is a small city, suburb. It's like between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and it's a mixed city between Arabs and Jews. And growing up in this kind of a city, and growing up in a Jewish neighborhood and speaking Hebrew even before I went to kindergarten because I was talking to my Jewish neighbors. So for me, it was to grow up in this kind of environment was really, really at the same time a blessing and a curse. And growing up in Ramle as an Arab, in general, to be an Arab in Israel, Palestinian Arab in Israel, it's complicated. To be in Ramle as a microcosmos of Israel and Palestine, it's more complicated. Because this city is so small, but have so many diversity. It's have so much in common, but there's so many different religions and people live in Ramle. So the minute that I met Uriya, honestly, in Manshia, he spoke with me on the phone like a week before. So I said, okay, you know, like, let's meet, why not? The first minute he showed up, the first minute he even shook my hand and we even hugged each other. I had kind of, it was kind of nitzotz. It was a spark. It was something really remarkable. Until today, I remember that. And I looked at Uriya's eyes, and I had a good feeling about him. So we sat down. He gave me his headphones to hear the song that he just recorded. The first time I heard it, it was hardcore. It was like this guy is saying hardcore stuff, honest stuff, DUGRI stuff that I was like shocked. And then we said, okay, we're going to meet for half an hour, 40 minutes. The small, short meeting, 1 to 3 hours. And after he left, we said, okay, let's meet to see if it's going to be fit what I'm doing, because I'm a rapper and singer for 20 years, but this time it was different. I felt it was different. So I said, let's give this educator a chance to deliver something or what he wants. So a week later, we first met at his place. We started to meet like basically every week, once a week, sometimes twice a week. But at the beginning, I was really suspicious about his tensions and why he came to do this kind of song with me, because I made so-called coexist and peace projects before and was all the time kind of disappointed from the result, the way how I did it, things that I didn't really agree 100%, but I still did it. So this time was different. So we started to talk. We started to share really, really like First question I remember I asked Uriya is what Nakba means to you? And if not everybody familiar with the word Nakba, Nakba means for Palestinians, it's kind of the catastrophe that the Palestinians went in 48. So when I asked him about what do you think about the Nakba, he was like, what he had when he was a kid, the education that he got, the narrative. And then I started to share with him moments about my family, what we went through in 48, what's going on with my family until today. And I was surprised for good, but in the same, I wasn't surprised because I saw, again, something in his eyes that it was really different than average Israeli person that I meet my daily life in Ramla and Lid and Tel Aviv. When I saw how much he's open-minded and he's understanding stuff that maybe at first it was hard for him to hear the second narrative or the different narrative, the other narrative about 48, then I saw that every time I just tackled him with this kind of information, at first maybe he was suspicious, but then we got to really understand each other. From meeting once, twice a week, happens to be like 3 times a week sometimes. He comes to my place in Yaffa, I go to his place. And after really like a lot of meetings, a lot of phone calls, a lot of text messages, I agreed. Honestly, like I agreed. I said, okay, I'm with you. I'm on board. That's it. I'm on board. You convinced me. And after a couple of hardcore months that we discussed, argued, had fights even about the lyrics, the text. Because at first, the first version of Uriya was him singing the 2 parts only in Hebrew. And some of the parts of the Arab side that he did, I didn't agree with. Told him, listen, an Arab guy will never say that shit. It doesn't work like that. Let's change it. Let's do it differently. So we started to open the Arab side because the Jewish side was perfect. We didn't even argue about it. It was so good. But the Arab side, we started to change the lyrics. First, we dropped half of the Hebrew and instead we put Arabic. And then to find, if you noticed, I rhymed in 2 languages in one song. To rhyme in Hebrew and in Arabic, it's not easy. So finding the rhymes, how to rhyme in Hebrew and Arabic at the same time. And putting like in Arabic, putting the Arabic language, because this is one of the things that as DUGRI, we want to tell to the world, like speak Arabic, understand Arabic, learn Arabic. It will help you to communicate faster with your neighbors. So
can I interrupt for a sec?
Yes, please.
Why not only in Arabic? Why do you need the Hebrew at all?
Can you keep this question when we have the discussion? Please remind me this question, please. It's important. But thank you for the question, man. Amjad, thank you. Shukran. So then after we, at least we worked on the lyrics from September 2021, 20 until like March for 6 months, just lyrics, doing whatever we want. And then we had the last version of the lyrics. And then, of course, Uriya's vision is how we're going to shoot a video right now. We're going to do a video for this song. And from day one, he had in his vision that this video, this song, will going to be like reach, we said Palestinians and Israelis, but eventually it reached millions around the world. So then we decided to do a video. We thought about a place where to shoot a video, and we thought, or Uriya thought, as a director even, he said, Arabs and Jews meet in a garage. Most of them fix cars and they meet there. So we decided to do it in a garage. And then we put the hummus and the zero and everything. We just settled down the whole thing. And we just chose really the perfect place. That how after saying this kind of things, we're not gonna beat each other. No, we're gonna attack each other about the lyrics what we just said. And it was really, really, I remember even the days that we had the video clip that we did the shooting day. It was really unique. It was really amazing. And eventually, after we have the song, after we have the video, as I consider ourselves as prophets of rage, then May 2021 happened, the clashes and everything that happened in between Gaza and Israel, and of course, inside in Israel, especially in the mixed cities. They had clashes. We had so much like really craziness going out there. And then Uriya like said, you know what? We have to release the video right now. Like we really finished it a couple of days before everything started. And then we just released it on May 20. On May 2021, there was the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. And we were live on the biggest Israeli news in front of 2 million Israelis and maybe millions around the world. And we just released our baby. Honestly, I was afraid. I told Uriya, no, I don't think we should release it right now, the video. Maybe we should wait a week or two after things calm down. But this dude just told me, listen, this is the time to release it. In Arabic, we have a sentence, knock on the metal when it's still hot. So we just did it. And it was just timing. It's all about timing. And we never believed that when we're going to release the song, this situation is going to happen. But again, that's Palestine and Israel. That's to be born and raised in this complicated countries and era. So, and that's how we got the video out there and reached out for millions all around the world.
Yeah, I mean, let me follow up on that. You know, like at the beginning, it was super weird for us. We didn't thought it would happen like this, but we were definitely prepared. Working on a project for 3 years and suddenly getting all this attention as this song becomes like the soundtrack of what's going on on the ground, it got us a lot of attention. We got interviewed by, you know, probably like 60 organizations and news agencies and everything around the world. And we suddenly find ourselves in a tight schedule of being interviewed and being asked about who we are and what we do. And we are just two people, you know, I'm an educator, he's an artist, he's a musician, and we became very good friends in this year. We became like really, really close friends, meeting all the time and having fun and enjoying this kind of fusion. So suddenly all this attention got us, you know, like suddenly we were offered to participate in podcasts and campaigns and to get money out of this. And we really agreed to stop it right there and to ask ourselves, you know, like, why are we doing this? The most important thing for us is to maintain our authenticity. We don't want to be sellouts and we don't want to get attention. We want to be communicating a complicated message of, you know, like acknowledging past traumas, but moving forward to a collaborative future due to the basic fact that millions of Jews and Arabs are just not going to go anywhere. So we stopped a little bit with the interviews. We started communicating more openly through social media, and we decided to somehow continue doing stuff together, but we didn't know how. And that is when we got an idea, you know, like the first project put all the blame on the other side, you know, like you put the finger on the other side, the next project should be pointing the finger inwards. And, you know, like everybody wants to change the world. Nobody wants to change themselves. So how can we show the world that we are in the business of changing ourselves, you know, not preaching, think like us, but rather communicating the journey that we went through as a duo. And that is something authentic that we believed people can, you know, like relate to. And we started working on a new song. You know, I won't describe the entire process because we don't have time, but it was a very interesting process of, you know, having this one idea about very harsh feedback that we got for the first song. And that is also something worth mentioning, that we got, you know, a lot of criticism, both from the right saying to me, like, how can you give a platform to those lies by the Arab, you know, he's saying bullshit. We didn't do all that to them. And I got criticized from the left, you know, like, how are you using this language? You're promoting hatred. So when you are criticized from both sides, you know you're doing something right. But also worth mentioning the fact that for every hate message that we got, you know, like 10, 20 times more support and love messages saying how much this was a needed voice and how necessary, and nobody is saying what you're saying in such a DUGRI and authentic and straightforward way. So it was really mind-blowing. And eventually the next song, we decided that after the first one was so blaming, the second one should be more emotional and about something in common, you know. Before taking upon ourselves a new journey, touring across the country and asking people what we should change in ourselves, we wanted to do something, you know, like in the middle, in between, that would be more emotional. That is when we thought about Manfas, our next song. So I think, Uriya, now would be a good time to put the second song before we start explaining what it means.
Excellent. Let's do that. And so, as before, I will be having the link in the chat for everyone to see. And Yarden, you can use that in order to share your screen and try to make sure that people can see the captions, okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Didn't see that before. All right. One moment. Right. Okay, here we go. Let me know if you can see the subtitles.
احنا مش سيئين ولا جهلين، عنا حياة وبنحب نعيش، بنحب العيلة، بنحب الربيع، بنحب البحر، بنحب نعيش بسلام، علقانين بين عالمين، بين اندماج لمقاومة، بين الرمل وغزة، حياتنا مركبة، فيش عنا منفس، فيش عنا منفس. صوتي هادي بدي أصرخ عالي، بدي أبني حالي مثل ابن عمي، أدوق الحياة لما شم ريحة بلادي، أشوف حديقة مش هدم بيت جاري.
ככה דוגרי לפנים,
هذه هي الطريقة،
אנחנו מספיק שנים,
ما نستنى دقيقة،
זה בא לי מבפנים,
بدنا أصوات جريئة. فيش عندي منفس، فيش عندي منفس.
אני יודע מה אתם חושבים, עוד אשכנזי שמתחנף לערבים, אבל הייתי בקרבי ותרמתי למדינה ומסביבי שום דבר לא השתנה. חדשות כל שעה, בונות נרטיב, שירים וטקסים שבאים להכאיב, אומה שלמה עם PTSD, לאן מועדות פני העם היהודי. מנהיגים שצועקים חזק, אני מרגיש מחנק וכל קול מתון מושתק.
تعي مسيح شباك النفاق، يلا بينا رفاق نفكر خارج النطاق. اللي يغيبها اللي يغيبها اللي يغيبها اللي يغيبها.
אנחנו דור צעיר שמשלם מחיר על גזענות ועל שחיתות ועל הראש בקיר, אז חוגגים בעיר ומרוויחים סביר, אבל המציאות חונקת אין אוויר. גם אם נקליט על ביט להיטי מסר קליט, כלום לא יזוז עד שנבהיר לכל מי שמחליט שחלשים משיט, שכבר יבנו תוכנית ושחייב להיות שלום בכל תסריט.
عيشتونا بأوهام، كلام بجر كلام، بالفعل صفر ولا شبر بس كله تمام. يعني اللي فكرته حد يحط سكينة بظهره لعني، سمعت همل كتير خلص بكفي فك عني. ضيعت سنين أبصر قلبي شو ملهي، هورت ما بلوم إلا نفسي، عبت بنزين صرت عنيد، داعس لقدام لحالي لو العالم كله مطفي.
ככה דוגרי לפנים,
هذه هي الطريقة،
אנחנו מספיק שנים,
ما نستنى
זה בא
دقيقة،
לי מבפנים,
بدنا أصوات جريئة.
מנהיגים שזועקים חזק, אני מרגיש מחנק וכל קול מתון מושתק.
تعي مسيح شباك النفاق، يلا بينا رفاق نفكر خارج النطاق. اللي يغيبها اللي يغيبها اللي يغيبها اللي يغيبها اللي يغيبها، مش عندي منفس. فيش عنا منفس.
I hope you enjoyed the video. We named it Manfas, especially in Arabic. Manfas means a crack, small crack of air to breathe. And we named it Manfas because one of the things that we as DUGRI want to deliver is that Arabic language is another way to communicate, to connect with your neighbor. So that's why we name it Manfas, and we try to see how radio and media will deal with it. If you notice in the video, this video was different than Let's Talk Straight. This video was saying about us as two young people that in our hearts, we just want to live our lives thinking about that the sea, the ocean is This is like the endless, this is the true freedom they want to live in. We want to play some backgammon, having just nice drink or eat together, just be friends. But at the same time, when you go back to the room, you go back to reality that we live, the complexity in Israel and Palestine, that we are tied to each other. We can't really move. We fight each other to move. Everybody want to make a step, but he doesn't notice that every step I want to make forward, there's a guy is connected to me. So it means we are connected. We are now have same fate. So we have to understand how we want to get our lives from being tied and being in this complexity to just have a simple life of sitting in the beach and just enjoying life as normal people all around the world. So it was more emotional video, emotional song. And we really, really wanted to deliver that. Eventually, our two people are connected to the same fate. We want to have a better future and understand that we're going to have a complexity that we have to deal with.
Yeah, also artistically speaking, you know, the team that helped us were a team of actually, you know, Palestinians with Israeli citizenship, you know, like what we consider sometimes as Arab Israelis from Nazareth. And they were a very creative team. Some of them were from East Jerusalem as well. And they actually built a machine that moves around in order for this effect to happen. So like this effect gave a lot to the artistic creation in the sense that we are swirling around in the same fate for years and there's no way out of it. The fact that we are tied together only appears in the first chorus of the video, and it gives like a shocking effect that we wanted to portray. We must say, you know, like this Manfas video was a lot less successful than the first video in the sense of virality, you know, and becoming viral and all that, because to be honest, what we're talking about is not sexy. It's not something that people love to consume. It's not great content for people to feel good about themselves. And the first video had holistic timing in the sense that it was really what was happening on the ground. The second video, you know, stuff happening all around us, COVID, people don't care about that anymore, and it was a lot less popular. But what we realized back then, enjoying to create and to authentically express how we both feel and to, you know, be able to echo this moderate voice that might stay in the, you know, like in the public consciousness for a long time, we understood that we are in this for a marathon, not for a sprint. Nothing about what we do is about getting the desired result, but rather, you know, like expressing the attitude we believe would be better for both peoples. So that was when, out of basically the internal feeling that we both had, we decided to, you know, like really collaborate and to establish a joint venture, a social venture called DUGRI. DUGRI is such a common word in Hebrew, even though it's a word in Arabic, which means straight or straightforward. Talking DUGRI means being very straightforward. That is something very Israeli, very Arab. And we really wanted to put that as, you know, like the biggest notion, the biggest characteristic of our venture. What we're trying to do basically is we're trying to bring Israelis and Palestinians together to talk straight and to acknowledge past traumas, but to build a mutually beneficial future. And we are doing it through three main things. We use content, which is supposed to be cool and creative and to echo the silent majority's voice. You know, like it's impossible to scream moderation. It's very easy to scream Itbach el Yahud, Mavet la'Aravim, kill all the Jews or kill all the Arabs, but it's very hard to scream, I'm super chill and I just want to live my life and to fulfill myself and to raise a family. It's super hard to scream that. So we're trying to find creative ways to scream that to the public consciousness, and that's content. The second part of what we do is education. We basically deliver workshops and lectures all around the country. We facilitate educational meetings just like this, but with high school kids, usually 15 to 18-year-olds, and we talk to them about exactly this, about the journey. And then we offer a discussion where they can ask us tough questions, such as like, oh, you two hypocrites, you two lefties, what are you basically saying? What is the solution? And that is when we get the opportunity to say to those kids, you know, like, we don't have a solution. Your leaders who are 30 years older than us don't have a solution. What we're offering is an approach. how much can we fight the darkness and think that we are the ones who are right? Maybe we should focus on the light. Maybe we should build, movements from grassroots level and communicate through like human connections. And maybe one day in the future, given the fact that me and Sameh are now friends, maybe if we become leaders in the future, we can make better decisions. And I think that approach of not preaching to the kids, but rather communicating our journey gives them a lot of confidence and a lot of, gives us a lot of credibility. We're not preaching, we're not demanding anything. We just offer a better attitude, I believe. So that's education. We also develop pedagogical workshops for others, but that's another thing. The third part would be the community. We're trying to extract and to aggregate all those people who enjoy our content and feel like that we were the missing voice in their lives. And all those kids from our educational work, we're trying to bring them to our community, a community that will serve as a platform for the next ventures and for the next collaboration between Arabs and Jews. For that community, we also organize events. We're trying to bring Israelis and Palestinians to the same venues and to make some sort of celebration that also talks DUGRI about the pain and also celebrates the similarities, like Arab music, Israeli music, something very unique in the Israeli landscape, It's also worth mentioning that we are not pinkwashing reality. There's no equality right now. Israelis and Palestinians do not enjoy the same privileges and the same lives. And we are able to communicate that, but still respect one another and understand that there's no way forward, but together. It sounds a bit cliche, but trust us, we know already how to communicate it, that people believe us and don't feel like we are just,
trying to sell you.
Talking bullshit.
Exactly.
Talking bullshit.
Exactly.
We have a lot more to say. We already got accepted to a social accelerator to help us bring our venture to the next level and to scale up. And we are definitely looking for partners all around the world. We were invited to, do a tour in the United States. We are invited to schools all around the country. There was an interest from a big TV platform in the world to do a documentary about our story, but we were really taking it slow, step by step, because we understand that this is a marathon and not a sprint. And we are in a very privileged position to be able to say what we really feel and to also make a humble living by authentically expressing ourselves. And we want it to grow. I think that eventually what we are aiming for is that DUGRI would be a youth social movement, that people can relate to and to say, I'm DUGRI. I talk straight. I talk about my fears. I talk about, the traumas that I have from the past, the bombing attacks, the wars, the occupation for the other side. But eventually, I understand from a higher perspective that if I want a better life, I can't be right anymore. I need to be smart and I need to be able to collaborate with whoever I can. And Sameh is much more like me than some of the fellow Jews in the country that are more religious and different. So I feel like that's a good way to start. Maybe let's find more Uriyas and more Samehs and be able to form a community that would one day have a power to change reality. So that's basically us. Maybe you want to end with something from, but let's open it up,
We will open for questions soon. I just wanted to add that it started as a journey of one person, Uriya, and I can tell you I joined a ride, his journey, and now both of us are now connected, not because we're friends and we have this friendship, not because he's a beautiful Jew and a beautiful air. It's because I'm a good person, he's a good person. Our friendship is built on being a good human being, period. That's you're a Jew and proud, so be it. That's I'm a Palestinian and proud, so be it. So what? So I really wanted just to make a really lavlit to underline that we should find other Samehs and Uriyas and build their friendship like we built our friendship. And of course, we argue, we fight sometimes, we disagree. We're being honest with each other. But that's the moment. That's the most important thing I wanted to really make it, the remark on it, that build your friendship on being just a good human being first. And me as even Sameh, I have this journey that the other thing that Uriya teach to me during the last 2 years journey together, what friendship means, what to mean to be a good friend in good times and bad times, and even reminding me as an artist, after 20 years in the business, I forgot what does it mean to be authentic, what to be humble, and to remember why I did music in the first place. So that's a second lesson I learned from our friendship, that Uriya just reminded me that, you know, why I started to do the whole thing. So we're still going the journey. We're gonna go through it, and we promise that we're gonna have new projects and new surprises soon.
Yeah, and I will just, I want to emphasize what Sameh is saying. We argue a lot. I'm very mad at Sameh for being late all the time, but he's very much improving. And like the fact is that like our friendship is about that. Like we argue and we enjoy the argue, and then we transform it to something creative. And I feel like we're privileged to do so. Some people living today in Palestine are not privileged enough to do so. And that's a big shame. That's something on us to change. But we're not blaming. We're not blaming. I don't think that there's one side that is responsible for everything. We're trying to build bridges and to inspire others to do the same. And it's hard. It's not an easy thing to talk about. You know, you see how many students came here today. You know, like people living abroad and very far away, like who cares? And people living here already desperate. You know, like the Israeli media loves us much less than the international media in that sense, you know, because they can't use us in order to embed fear and chaos in the public's hearts. That being said, before we open it up to questions, we really want you guys to get to know us better and to get a sense of what kind of content we create other than songs. So maybe just before we start the Q&A, Uriel and Yarden, maybe you can show the third video I sent you, the IM.
Of course.
Yeah, please.
Great.
Thanks.
So after this video, we will open it up to questions. Thank you for staying here.
So here again, in the chat, a link to the clip, and Yarden, you can show it to the whole group, to the share screen.
I am a human. I belong to the earth. I came from space and time. I'm a machine. I'm here for some unknown reason, programmed to survive.
I am a Leo, inside and character. I had to fight like a lion for everything in life. I was always gentle and naive, until the first time I got backstabbed with a knife.
I am a son of dominant parents. I was kind and sensitive as a child. I'm self-observant and full of thoughts. My imagination runs wild.
I'm the black sheep of the family. I'm the one who chose to follow his dreams. I'm not always practical, but I am ambitious, and I tend to go to extremes.
I'm a brother for my two remaining siblings. I try to get better at it every day. It isn't easy to be happy when we're together, since our older brother passed away.
I was born 6 years after my brother Shadi, and 5 minutes after Sameh, my twin. Fighting for our parents' attention and acceptance made us develop a thick skin.
I'm a curious soul in search of the miraculous, a student of the universe. I'm extremely attentive and I go deep. It's both a blessing and a curse.
I'm a generous soul, motivated by strong emotions and a desire to give. I am kind, even to my haters. The meaning of my name is to forgive.
I'm a man of words. I choose them carefully and I aspire to be direct. I'm usually transparent. The way I feel about something isn't hard to detect.
I'm a natural performer. Just give me a mic, a crowd, and a stage. I'll never forget my first show. I felt like a beast unleashed from a cage.
I am in a permanent search of meaning. I advocate for complexity, and I always try not to lie. I ask myself a lot of questions. The only thing I know for sure is that one day I will die.
I'm in a permanent search for approval. I always feel like something is missing. As a rapper from unsupportive community, you can imagine, people were dissing.
I love to eat. For the wrong reasons. It's almost like I disappear when food arrives. I'm also a huge basketball fan. I played professionally from age 6 to 25.
I'm an hyperactive artist with ADHD, but I've learned to use it for my own good. When the stakes are high and stress kicks in, I function better than anyone else would.
I'm a Jew. My grandparents were religious ones, and I'm familiar with the rituals and books. I love that moment before Shabbat dinner. I storm the kitchen and taste everything Mama cooks.
I'm an Arab minority. My early identity crisis made me feel like I have no choice. I worked so hard and opened myself for different perspectives, and eventually I found my voice.
I was once more connected to my Judaism. I saw it as a symbol of family, unity, and love, but the older I get, the more I drift away from it and try to look at things from above.
I come from a diverse family. Some of us celebrate Ramadan and some decorate a Christmas tree. The older I get, I see all humans as one. No matter what religion, we all should be free.
I'm egocentric. It took years to understand, a couple more to confess, but only now I take pride. I'm the only one that's gonna stay with me forever, so I need to learn how to be on my side.
Today, authenticity is very important to me. I talk straight. I have nothing to hide. I'm also a great host, a people's person. Trust me. Just come visit and enjoy the ride.
We open up, trying to share who we really are. Many Uriyas and Samehs are calling out. The spotlight illuminates each one of them at a time, and in their turn they shout.
We create content and music, a call for social awakening, like we know what life is all about. At the same time, we believe in humble leadership of not knowing. Our compass is our doubt.
We are in this together, very different but close friends, who share the same hopes and feelings.
Join our growing community and help us create a future with maximum good for maximum beings.
Yeah, thank you again. Just want to say that this video was done in collaboration with The Forward, the Jewish Forward, an American newspaper. They asked us to write an op-ed for them and to do some sort of artistic creation that would be, that complete it. And we wrote an op-ed about what we see as the future of Arabs and Israelis in the country and how our attitude is helping that or might influence it. But the video that we decided to do wasn't about, bashing the reality or blaming or creatively saying how bad things are, but rather we wanted to show who we really are, who are the people behind this op-ed and why we want people to listen to us. Not because we are Jew, not because we are an Arab, not Israeli and Palestinian, but rather real people, authentic, looking to the camera, saying who we really are, who is really behind this project, and to show that, even though that our stories are so different, we are still very close friends and we respect each other. And we want to call upon our societies and the other young, authentic people out there who are missing that kind of voice to join our growing community and to join our movement in order to one day in the future create a better reality. So that was the whole idea behind this video and the op-ed that we wrote. We have much more to say, but we do want to answer some questions. And yeah, let's start. Uriel?
Thank you so much. Uriya, that was wonderful. People sometimes accuse me that I'm too hopeful. I think that you defeat me in my own game. So I know that there are a couple of questions going on. Maybe I'll just start with a brief comment and a question that I don't know if will merit a brief or a long answer. The comment is that, as I was looking again at your clip, I couldn't help but think that they are in fact go well beyond the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And even if we just think about the title of the second one, right, and the notion, I can't breathe, and how powerful that phrase has become over the past 2 years, actually. I think about the death of George Floyd, the last word that he uttered. And even throughout the coronavirus crisis, I can't breathe, as so many people who got sick with that expressed themselves. And that, yes, of course, resonates in the Israeli-Palestinian context. But I do think that the message is universal, the connection between breathing and expressing ourselves through voice, through sound, through sight. And that, I think, is remarkable. In a sense, even the word that you use for the project, DUGRI, yes, you use it as a Hebrew word these days. It has its Arabic origin, but it also has a Turkish origin, right? Originally, it comes from Turkic language. It's part of the region. And the one question that I want to ask you, I have many more, but I'll settle for one. Going back to the first clip, DUGRI, right? Speaking frankly, when you were uttering those words, whether while preparing or during the shooting of the clip, were there moments that when you just hit those slurs against one another, that you felt you actually think that you actually feel that? Or was that at the time, in some ways, not so DUGRI, maybe even a lie, just a performance? Did you manage to tap to the animosity, to the stereotyping that so many people in our society are so much engulfed in?
It's a good question, bro. At the day of the shooting of the video, a couple of minutes before we started, the set was ready, Uriya just hugged me and we started to memorize the lyrics and singing it to each other. And it was really hard at first. Like I was looking, a year before he was a stranger for me. And a year after, he's my best friend. How I can hate or saying things that it's kind of, he's one of my best friends. Like even as an actor, it's hard, to act like that. And then when we sat on the chairs, the minute that the director said action, we just went to this position and this moment that, okay, now we're not going to be really the best friends. We're going to say stuff that not really best friends saying to each other. In my part, for example, part of the things that I said and that I did in the song and in the video, it came from my own experience. The part that I'm saying when I fly outside of Israel, when I travel through Ben Gurion Airport, it was really true story. I was like really, I had so many bodyguards protecting me and kind of taking me from I remember that from the cab that I got until the moment that I went on the plane. So it was really hard for me. It was really a traumatic experience to be a kind of, in America, use racial profiling. And I felt like, what's going on in here? So in this kind of moments, I really meant it. You don't understand every time I fly how I feel. Like it was for me hard. But some of the lyrics in my even part, it's kind of, I don't really believe in them, or like, I can kind of understand, but I don't agree even in my part and his part. So it's just for me bringing my own experience and my own really true feelings with kind of trying to say stuff that as Sameh, I don't really say it. I don't kind of believe in it even, but it's kind of a mixture of reality, my reality, and some things that we hear as Uriya and Sameh in the Palestinian and Israeli side. So that's my part in the song. That's what I felt.
Yeah, I want to share my answer as well, because I think it's a very deep question. It has layers, because like Sameh said, we became best friends. And right before we started the shooting of the video, if you let me share this, like Sameh has it harder with memorizing the lyrics. He has some sort of ADHD and it's combining two languages. He has a tough job over here, okay? But I am 3 years into this project. I interviewed so many people. This is in my veins, So it was a funny situation, like hugging each other like this, walking around the garage while people are walking around us. And I'm like doing all my part and his part by heart. And I'm also doing the Arabic words and like reminding him, no, you're saying la manfas. Like I knew the Arab words better than him. And it was such a, like it was a strengthening experience for us. Like we became tighter in that couple of minutes, memorizing it and getting excited about the situation. Also worth mentioning the fact that Sameh was fasting the Ramadan when we did the shooting. So we didn't eat, he didn't drink the entire day. It was super hot. It was May in Israel, which is relatively very hot. So we had to be super focused. 2.5 hours, we were done with the shooting. It was only a couple of takes. We wanted to do like a one shot, We didn't do a one shot eventually, but we didn't use a lot of takes. That's what I wanted to say. And eventually when we did the shooting, something changed. Like just now I'm reaching to your question, Uriel. When we started shooting, something changed. You find that inner, I wouldn't say racist, but that inner Jew that is afraid of that Arab. And that is, on my back, there's years of my family being afraid and buses being exploded. And I gave myself all the legitimacy to be rude and to be straightforward and to be extravagant. And, like, there's a lot behind that, to answer your question. Finally, I want to say it wasn't lying, it was acting, which I'm bad at. But in order to be good at it and to be persuasive and to be authentic, I needed to find that hatred within me that perhaps exists in a way, now it is so different. And it's like people ask me, would you serve in the military again? And I'm like, I think that from some place I would definitely do it because it built me to be in the IDF. But in another sense, I would never do it if I wasn't 18 years old, you know, because right now your consciousness would not allow you to be in that kind of aggressive mentality. It's weird. It's very weird. So that's my weird answer to your question. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a very insightful, both answers, very insightful. Now, I know that Sarah Marie and Yarden already had questions, and I imagine that others as well, and we'll go with you, okay? Uriya Sameh will go with you. As much time as you would allow us, we'll keep on asking. So maybe, Sarah, you will start, and then Yarden, if that's okay.
Yes. Hi, I hope you hear me well. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. And then I would like to connect to the first question a little bit, but on the basics of the language switches, because like, I think both of you spoke Arabic and Hebrew, and what made you change like the languages in between the lines? Like, why didn't you stay with one language? Is there any point why you changed?
Yeah, maybe Sameh would answer it, and it connects to your dance question from before, you know, like.
Why I didn't do the verse only in Hebrew or only in Arabic. Just to make you notice, most of Arabs, Palestinians who lives in Israel or citizens of Israel, they speak two languages, Hebrew and Arabic. But 95% of Israelis or Jewish Israelis don't speak Arabic at all. So for me, just doing in Arabic for Israeli audience or non-Arab speakers, Arabic speakers is gonna be kind of weird. What's he gonna say? But me saying these kind of things in Hebrew, in their own mother language, that's kind of the message will be really coming to their minds, and it's gonna like that's one of the things. And it's kind of me maybe showing off like, hey, I control your own language, but you don't understand my language. So it's saying kind of I don't want to sound extremist, but I know my enemy's language. So that's how I communicate with my enemy, so-called enemy. So for me, when I brought the Arabic, it's bringing my language. But at the same time, we wanted to keep it Hebrew because this message wasn't just delivered to Palestinians. It was for Palestinians and Israelis. So, and rhyme it in Hebrew and Arabic was kind of another unique thing in our song that, you know, to rhyme in Arabic and Hebrew, it sounds similar, but believe me, it's hard. It's really hard. And we did a great job with the help of course, Uriya and everybody. But for me doing it in Hebrew, not just in Arabic, it was another say to tell the Israelis that, wake up, guys, you gotta start to learn Arabic because I know your language.
Yeah, I want to follow up, obviously, and say that, I mean, for me, it was like when I wrote the words in Hebrew, there's also a line that says, תלמדו לדבר עברית תקינה, נתחיל משם. Learn to speak proper Hebrew, let's start from there. This is a very common claim by, you know, like right-wing people or nationalists that believe that this is only the Jewish homeland and people who are living here, they should speak only Hebrew, like something that is very closed, in my opinion, mentally, I would say. And like, it's very funny that the Jews is saying, learn to speak proper Hebrew, while the Arab, which I met only a year ago, speaks fluent Hebrew. You can't even hear his accent, while I don't speak a word in Arabic, or I do speak words, but based on my military service and nothing more. I never did any step forward to know my neighbors, to know even my enemies, but definitely my neighbors, you know? So I wanted that to be portrayed. We wanted that to be portrayed through the use of words. And yeah, I definitely agree with everything that Sameh said. I'm now learning Arabic. It's hard for me. I did it too late, but I'm doing it with passion and commitment. And we definitely want to encourage Israelis to speak Arabic as much as we can, and also to showcase the fact that the Arabs know to speak our language much more than we know how to speak theirs. Did we answer your question, Sarah Marie?
Yeah, you did. Thanks. And Tawfiq Al-Arabi.
Shukran, thank you.
We have two more questions before mine. So Marcia wanted to ask something, right?
So Marcia and then Mary and
Marcia, sorry.
Yeah. So I I was involved a few years ago in bringing Roots here to Ithaca, and they have in some ways a similar message of wanting to bring people together. And you guys mentioned one thing about something about religious as if they're very far away. And there's such a broad part of the Jewish community and the Arab community. And I don't know if you have anything involvement with Arabs that are not Arabs, not Israeli citizens. How do you reach the different groups? And I do wonder in terms of when kids turn 18, on the one hand, Israel needs the army and the service for it to exist. But on the other hand, if we don't learn a way of living together, we're slated to be at odds, and life will be poor quality for everyone if we can't find a way of sharing land together.
Yeah, I get it, Marcia. Thank you for the question. Let me start this time. I want to say that, first of all, it's very important to start every time we are asked a question like this that we don't know. Like, how do you reach all the people? We don't know. What's the solution? We don't know. The reality here is so complicated that I can't really commit to an answer that I believe this is the way forward. We are offering an attitude rather than a solution, and it's very important to be very confident in communicating this. That's number one. Number two, we are reaching out step by step. We built this venture. We are starting to do, like advertising and marketing. And we are approached by different schools across the country. We already got the chance to lecture to thousands of students, mostly Jews, but also Arabs. So that's already progress for me. And the day that I would be fluent in Arabic and I can hold these kind of messages in Arabic as an Israeli Jew to a Palestinian school or to Palestinian kids, that's going to be mind-blowing. That's going to be really the future. It doesn't happen that people like me who were combat officers in the IDF and that come from a proud Zionist family, they opened their consciousness so much that they are now able to speak in a language and in an attitude that Palestinians would be open to. That's progress. And that's where we're going, and it's taking time. We start by looking for the people who are similar to us and that we have common language with, and that we can really collaborate on the same, understanding and perception of life. We're definitely not counting on religion. You mentioned religion. We're definitely not counting on religion. Like we don't talk with politicians. We don't talk with religious leaders, not because we are afraid of it and we disagree with it, but because we don't think that is the way to go. That is old school for us. We want to be focusing on the fact that majority of us are people who are busy in survival. We want to make money, we want to raise families, we want self-fulfillment. At least that's how I know my generation. And if I don't start with the religious people and I don't start with the extremists, that's fine by me. I want to start with the people that I can enlarge the light with rather than, fight the darkness. So that's my take on the question. And if I didn't answer you, feel free to ask again.
The only thing I can add that we meet a lot of people from all sides, and we're only in the beginning of our journey. So honestly, I don't really have an answer to say. We're just trying to do our best, just trying to stay humble, stay Sameh and Uriya, how we see the conflict or how we see our lives. And the only thing we can do is just, create and live the moment and try to live with all the complexity and the hard life that we went through since the last 74 years. So I think we just want to do a different way. We want to just address it to different people. Everybody who wants to join us, ahla wa sahla. If not, it's all good. We're not trying to leratzot. We're not trying to please anybody.
In 2017, just one quick thing, I co-led an interfaith trip to Israel with one of the local rabbis. And we heard Rabbi Melchior speak. And he said that he actually gets together with Hamas in Jenin and with the people on the Waqf in Jerusalem. And he said that their feeling is that by excluding the religion completely or the religious completely from Oslo or whatever kind of peace process, it was a mistake because at some point we will need to find a way of being together. And the police had come to, in Jerusalem, had come to Rabbi Melchior before Yom Kippur one year when it was coinciding with one of the Eids. And they had chatted that there was going to be a pigua, a terrorist action. And Rabbi Melchior said, I went to the one who was the most extreme, the most religious of all the Waqf, so that if he can convince him that it would be a Chilul Hashem, a desecration of God's name, to have murder on our holiest day of the year, both people's holy days of the year, then others would come along, and it actually happened. So I wouldn't completely exclude the religious at some point. So I take it you go mostly to like mamlachti, regular government schools?
Not only, but that's where we start, Marcia, yes. And I will address this again because I feel like you misunderstood what we're saying. We're not excluding anybody. We're just focusing on ourselves. We don't approach people and say, oh, you're religious or you're secular. Or we are communicating a message that we believe in, and we think that is the attitude and the best approach to move forward as two nations in a conflict. And then whoever joins, we are happy with it. And we are trying to focus on that majority of people who are silent. We're not excluding the religious at all. And we believe that one day we will reach there. But just to give you a short example of how we do address religion, we were approached a couple of days ago by an organization that does educational videos for schools, okay? And they said, listen, this year, because of some sort of, thing with the Muslim holidays, the Eid al-Fitr, which is the most happiest day of celebration of Islam after the month of Ramadan, and it's a mitzvah to be happy for the Muslims in Eid al-Fitr. It happens right next to Israeli Yom HaZikaron, the National Day of Remembrance, the memorial for fallen soldiers. So it creates a very unique situation in the landscape where Israelis are mourning, but Muslim citizens of Israel have a mitzvah to celebrate and to be happy and to do a barbecue. And that can be very sensitive for the Israeli landscape. So we are going to start in an educational video for students trying to tackle this complexity and to explain it from our own perspective, tackling religion, tackling history, tackling very complicated issues for kids to consume and understand. So this is the way we find our uniqueness coming to life and tackling also religion. And it's going to take time. We're going to talk with rabbis and imams as well one day.
I'm so happy to hear about the work you do. Thank you. And you should continue to have more and more success.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now to Marie.
Yeah, well, thank you too. I was very moved and also very challenged by what you are doing, by what you're saying. And I think the main lesson that I take away from hearing you is that it's impossible to hate somebody you truly understand. That trying to really understand somebody makes it impossible to hate. But my question is really sort of what in your views changed and what in your views did not change. I mean, I understand that you sort of discover the mutual humanity in each other, but do your views of the issues that you bring up in this exchange, in this DUGRI, actually change? So forgive this slightly long question, but my interest is in incarceration in the US. And I have some friends who wanted to bridge the divide between them. They were members of a Jewish congregation and correctional officers. So what they did is they invited these correctional officers to their house, and they stayed in their house for 5 days. And everybody got to know each other on this very human basis and appreciated each other, and some became friends. But nobody's views actually changed of the prison system. I mean, their perspective on the prison system was absolutely unmoved. So my question to you is, I can see how you've gone from men who didn't know each other to being such close friends and really appreciating the deep humanity in each other. But are your views of each other's, of the issues that you talk about, that you refer to, do those views change at all?
Yeah, I want to thank you for this question because these are really good questions. It's like we meet a lot of people and we are very happy to hear this. It's an invitation to talk about the stuff that we want to talk about. You know, it's only an hour and something lecture and we can't really touch all the issues. So that's really important. Thank you. I'm the first one to answer this question because I am the one who made the bigger leap, you know? Sameh has a minority living in Israel, and I'm not talking on his behalf. I'm just doing like a preview for what I'm saying. He knows my culture much more than I knew his, you know, because he had to speak my language. He had to know when my holidays are. And he, as a minority, and the Arabs who were concentrated in certain cities across Israel, some mixed cities and some only, you know, like Arab villages. They are completely segregated from us, not in a fence and lockdown sense, but in the educational system, in the systematic decision-making of the country. So Arabs learn in the Arab education system, Jews learn in some education systems, whether it be mamlachti, like, you know, the regular one or religious one or Haredi one, like we are all divided. And in that sense, he knew much more about me than I knew about him. So I'm the one who made the bigger leap. What sort of leap did I make? Well, when he brought up the Nakba, I told them, what the fuck are you talking about? You attacked us. In 48, we celebrated in the streets. We got a country and we were, finally, we can survive without people killing us all over the world. And then you attacked us. So why are you saying Nakba? Why is this a disaster or a catastrophe? And when he told me about his family story, about the way they lived in Isdud, they were communists, so they were always non-violent. And then due to the fact that foreign armies attacked Israel, they were victims in the situation. They were kicked out of their home. Initially, no, because there was an open-minded commander, but then the commander switched to another one who was much more aggressive, and he decided, yeah, let's deport all the families from Isdud. And the family, you know, traveled, migrated across the country. Some went left to Gaza, right to Gaza. Some went left to Ramle, and they said, let's meet in 2 weeks after we clean our shirts, and haven't seen each other 74 years since. I never heard this story before from a real person. I never met the family, and I never met the parents of a person telling me this story. And then, since knowing Sameh, meeting his family, I was able to understand. It's not that now I'm this blind leftist who saying, yeah, Israel is the one to blame for everything. I'm saying that it's really complicated. Due to the fact that we suffered as the Jewish people in the history, and from the perspective of never again, and we must fight for our existence, we got backwind and legitimacy to do some bad things. And I'm not saying that we have the blame for everything, but I'm saying that I'm able to understand that without it being a consensus in the collective consciousness, we probably did some bad things. I don't think that Sameh lied to me. I don't think that his parents are lying to me when I look at their eyes and I see their pictures. So I was able to understand that even though I love my country and that I will defend it and that I love my grandfather for putting the flag on the Western Wall, I understand that there are a lot of forces in this land and that a lot of people are here and are not going to go anywhere. And I'm able to understand that and communicate it confidently and have that sort of mentality of a marathon and not a sprint only because of my views changing from meeting this guy. And it's not that I altered my perspective and I take all the responsibility, but I see it more balanced and I see it more, you know, like with courage, I would say, to say that I have the legitimacy to exist here as a country, as a Jew, and as even a Jewish country. But that being said, I can't really live my life free and happy if people around me are suffering due to the fact that I live and I exist. And yeah, I mean, that's the general answer to the question. If you want to go very specifically into specifics, you know, like what I think about this now and what I think about that war, I don't think that this is the forum for it, but a lot of small things changed and the general understanding and balance in me.
Nothing changed. Maybe I think that we do the best hummus and falafel in the world. So please bring us back the falafel and the hummus. It's a Palestinian, it's an Arab food. That's the things I want to change. No, being honest, no, being serious right now. I took, honestly, like, since I met Uriya, I repeat it again, as an Arab, as a Palestinian citizen of Israel, I went through this more like holistic journey, more of, you know, like once I was goy for Shabbat, I was helping my Jewish neighbors to turn off the light. I know it doesn't mean to fast in Kippur, Purim, everything, you know, nothing really changed. I understand, or I can see the Israeli society. I live in Israeli society eventually. But the only thing that really changed and really blow my mind is as Sameh as a person. That's the thing that really Uriya, being a friend with him, just opened my mind about things he went through, and more holistic and spiritual way how to treat life. And you know, again, being an Arab Palestinian in Israel, it's so complicated sometimes that even I start to talk right now, we need 2 nights to get over it. And not even, but because of the pressure and the complexity in my life, I forgot that to breathe, to just remember that eventually, no matter how my life is complicated and hard, I will always look for the light. I will always choose the right side. I always will do things that is going to make, I will make my future better. I will find a better future for myself, and trying to deliver it to my neighbors, to my community. So it's more the holistic way of the things that I went through. Nothing really changed in me. That's the only thing I can tell you, honestly.
Do you allow me to follow and to speak on your behalf a little bit?
Please.
Yeah, so what I want to say about Sameh is, you know, like the main change that I think he went through is from an authentic point of view, like understanding what authenticity means for him, okay? Because you know, like growing as an Arab minority in Israel, I saw in him that he was, you know, he was for many years an aspiring rapper, which is a very unique, you know, job to take upon yourself as an Arab citizen of Israel. And not a lot of rappers out there, you know, and I think that out of the desire to be loved and to be heard, you know, that he was utilized, he was used by some of the collaborators that worked with him. He unfortunately got to be the token Arab in some projects, you know, pinkwashing reality and not fully representing who he is. And then out of the process that he went through, he started to becoming a proud Palestinian, referring to himself as a Palestinian rather than an Israeli Arab, because I'm a Palestinian with an Israeli citizenship. My parents and my grandparents were here when this was not Israel. They were here. And they are the ethnic group called Palestinians. And that sort of change in him and that pride that grew in him made him, you know, do too much of that kind of, in my opinion, yeah? Too much of that went, you know, to such a further leap into, you know, like, yeah, Palestinian and that's it. But since meeting me and being able to handle those 2 dichotomies and those 2 perspectives about the whole situation, I think that the way it changed him or influenced him is that he's more balanced now. We understand his opportunity and his potential to become some sort of, he said before, rage prophet, so like a peace prophet, somebody that is saying, I'm a proud Palestinian and I understand our perspective and our narrative and I respect it fully and I'm going to communicate it with pride, but also I understand that there's no way forward but together. And I feel like that is the confidence that grew in him and that is the major change that he went through. It's not about being educated about Jewish culture and history. He knows it and he also respects it. But that being said, it's about the confidence, the balance, and the authenticity. That's what I believe.
Thank you so much. I would add very briefly to Marie's question, sort of a political science stuff, but very briefly. If you look at public opinion polls among both Israelis and Palestinians, in terms of the core issues, we're not going to resolve the conflict now, but if you look at their opinions about the core issues, there is in fact a slight majority that favors an agreement according to the outline that we all are familiar with. What both of them share, however, is a sense that there is no partner for peace on the other side. And that's exactly why this sort of initiative can help create a sort of breakthrough in the practical, more political sense. That's my personal perspective on that. Now to Yarden.
Okay, yeah, I'll do it briefly also. I'm studying languages, multilingual, multicultural, and you know, I've been following and even involved in some of the famous like Jewish-Arab collaborations, Yad B'Yad, Hand in Hand in Israel, or the Good Neighbors project in Abu Tor in Jerusalem. Have you heard about it? A very nice collaboration between a mixed neighborhood residents. One thing that is always kind of problematic, and I'm wondering what are you doing to solve it or to overcome it, is that you always get the sense that it's like equal, but you get a sense that at the end of the day, it's like run by the Jewish part, okay? The Arabs are like the guests, okay? And we're generously hosting them and giving them, you know, of course I don't believe in it, but that's what you get a lot of times. I'm working in Bet Bel, which is, I think, the most liberal, equal institution in Israel, higher education. And even there, you always get this little feeling of, you know, equality until you reach some point. So I'm wondering what you're feeling about that.
Again, a very, very good, relevant question. Thank you. I will start by saying that it's true, there's no equality. First of all, in reality, there's no equality. And second of all, even in our project, there's no equality. I've done this project for 3 years. Sameh joined me for my final year, and now we are collaborating together. And if you want to, if you see it from the I am video, I am a deep person with a very strong internal engine, and I talk too much and I talk too deeply. I'm a heavy person. I'm an intense person. And Sameh is the light one. He's the fun one. So we are different in the ways that we contribute to this venture. I do a lot of work that Sameh cannot do, and he opens a lot of doors that I would never open. And we are not selling you equality. We are selling you a collaboration. The interesting thing is that we share everything, every money that we make, 50-50. You know, so we take pride in this, that we are not similar in that we don't talk about, you know, being equal about everything, but we are working towards equality in a full collaboration, sharing everything very openly. When I'm unsatisfied with his contribution to our work, I communicate it immediately in a very direct way. And when he's unsatisfied with the way I handle, you know, emotions or the way we work together, he would be able to, you know, put me in my place. So I think that that's a very good place that we are in. We really focus on not bullshitting anybody. Like, it's very important for me that every person that I meet or talk to looks me in the eyes and say, I believe this guy. You know, so we can't bullshit, we can't pink wash. It's very important for us. And I still want to recognize the fact that this is problematic. You know, the inequality between Jews and Arabs in coexistence or shared projects gives the sense of, you know, like cynicism, like, yeah, they're just, you know, trying to make things look nice. But that is why we are not focused on results, and we don't sell our product and check if people are buying it and if it's tasty for them. We are just echoing something that we believe in very confidently. We are working, you know, like extensively on our friendship because, you know, both of us have our own lives, you know, like a lot of problems going on, and we are still, you know, in it for the long run. And that is the main message. Hoping that one day it would be also equality in the business.
Amen for that.
Amen indeed. So I see Marsha is preparing food for us. Thank you, Marsha. Expect a menu sometime soon. Okay, any other questions, including the hard ones? Okay,
yeah,
Sarah,
I'm in for another one.
That would be the final one for us. That's
all right.
Cool. Thank you so much.
So how do you make the connection between Israel and the West Bank? Like, you go to schools in Israel mainly, but is there any possibility to go to schools in the West Bank as well for you, or is it hard?
Until now, we only did it in Israeli schools. Some of them are mixed, some of them are not. You know, again, living here, it's complicated. It's not really easy to approach or to go to Palestinian schools or in the Palestinian territory in Palestine. But honestly, the last couple of days, we got connected with some Palestinian guy from Ramallah and another guy from East Jerusalem. So, you know, the process, we're still in the beginning of the process. Of course, like as a Palestinian, I can tell you, most of Palestinians will be more cautious and suspicious about Israelis or what their intentions about. So I understand it because I come from this community, but it's naturally when you're kind of living in not normal life in the West Bank and Gaza. But there's a lot of initiatives that we met and we learn every day that people, there's really a lot of Uriya and Sameh, not maybe my music, contact, and education, but maybe by doing different stuff like us. But there is, but we're still looking for our really Palestinian partners. And hopefully we want to do our lectures and meeting with Palestinian kids in Palestine, in Israel, whatever. Anybody who wants to meet us and talk to us, we're ready to go for that.
Yeah, I'm trying to give my perspective as well, just in different language, because we basically feel the same thing. But look at the situation right now with the Palestinians or the Arabs living in Israel. It's a very shitty situation. Like there are a lot of tensions and hatred, and a lot of, you know, like extreme people are getting the backwind in order to express their extremism, given the fact that there are terror attacks and that there are, you know, IDF aggressiveness happening in the West Bank. So we try to focus on what's, you know, like accessible for us, you know. So let's start. We say in Hebrew, the poor of your city, the poor people of your city come first, you know. So we're trying to focus on where our strongest potential is and grow from there. That being said, following what Sameh said, people from West Bank and Gaza are reaching out to us. I've been approached by a lot of people from Gaza saying, you wouldn't believe it, but we support your project a lot. And finally, somebody's saying, you know, like a joint voice, a joint voice of the moderate majority. So basically, the short answer would be, it's a process. It takes time. We are hoping to reach the Palestinian people sooner than later. And marathon, not a sprint.
Thank you. And thank you so much, both of you. Sameh, Uriya, this has been wonderful. Thank you for your creativity and your commitment. This is truly a wonderful collaboration that we're making. And Uriya, I told you before that I think it's also a potential for some sort of an academic engagement that might draw on your project to bring some insights also to the ivory tower. But beyond that, really,
I don't know what you mean by ivory tower, but we discovered a couple of months ago that our first creation, the Let's Talk Straight, is already taught in Harvard. So that was a huge privilege for us to discover this. And we are very much interested in, you know, in other invites. We want to tour the United States as well, and to get the Jewish communities and the Muslim communities, you know, like on board with us. And we are very thankful for the opportunity to speak to you and your students. We hope that this recording will be shared with them so they can also, you know, enjoy this talk. And yeah, thank you.
Yep. Chag Pesach Sameach, happy Passover, Ramadan Kareem.
תודה רבה. תודה רבה. היה ממש כיף. It was truly wonderful. Thank you all. We'll share the recording and take care. Good night.
Thank you.
Eid Mubarak.
Bye bye.
Thanks.
Very nice, Uriel. Thank you.
תודה רבה. Bye bye. Hello and bye bye.